The grand office of Kim Enterprises is quiet except for the soft clicks of keyboards. The young and handsome CEO sits at his desk deep in thought. His life is orderly and controlled, unlike his chaotic relationship with his fiancée Minji. Minji, the daughter of famous businessman, has returned from the USA with an air of entitlement and possessive nature that Taeyong dislikes. Their engagement, arranged by their families, feel more like a business deal than a love story. Taeyong often buries himself in work to escape Minji's overbearing behavior. One afternoon, Minji decides to visit Taeyong at his office. She strides in, her presence demanding attention. Taeyong looks up from his work, trying to suppress a sigh. Taeyong, Minji goes walking over to him. You've been so busy lately. I thought I would surprise you. Taeyong forces a smile. Minji, you know how hectic things are here. Minji ignores his tone and leans in close, her perfume overwhelming his senses. I miss you, she whispers, trailing her fingers along his arm. We barely spend any time together. Taeyong shifts uncomfortably in his seat. Minji, this is my office. We need to keep things professional here. But we are engaged, she pouts, sliding onto his lap. We should be able to show our affection wherever we are. Taeyong gently but firmly pushes her off his lap. Minji, please, I am not feeling well and I have a lot work to do. Minji's face falls as she steps back, crossing her arms. You never act like my fiancé, you're always so distant. Taeyong sighs, rubbing his temples. I've told you before, this is my workplace. We need to behave accordingly. Besides, I'm not feeling well. Can we talk about this later? Minji's eyes flash with frustration. Later. It's always later with you, Taeyong. Taeyong patience is wearing thin. Please understand, I'm trying to manage a company and deal with my health. I need you to respect that. Minji huffs and turns on her heel. Fine, I'll leave you to your precious work. As they storm out, Taeyong sighs deeply, feeling the weight of their strained relationship pressing down on him. He longs for peace and simplicity, something he finds more and more in the quiet presence of Wine, the maid who always seems to be there when he needs her most. The thought of Wine brings a small fleeting smile to his lips, but he quickly pushes it aside. He's engaged to Minji and he must honor that commitment no matter how difficult it becomes. After a long and exhausting day at the office, Seung finally decided to go home. He had a slight fever and his body aches from the stress. As he carpools to the grand entrance of his home, he feels a wave of relief knowing he will soon be able to rest. The household staff, aware of his preferences, know that he prefers wine to greet him. When he arrives home, despite there being two other maids, they understand his unspoken request and step aside as Wine respectfully walks to the door. Taeyong steps inside, his hand still on his forehead, trying to ease the pounding headache. The soft sound of footsteps approaching makes him remove his hand from his eyes. He looks up to see Wine standing there, her face filled with concern. Welcome home, sir, Wine says gently, her voice soothing. Even in her simple maid dress, Wine looks beautiful to Taeyong. Her presence alone makes him feel a bit better. He offers her a tired smile. Thank you, Wine, he replies, his voice. You don't look well, sir, she observes softly. Would you like to some tea or coffee? Taeyong considers for a moment, appreciating her thoughtfulness. Tea, please, something soothing. Of course, sir, I will bring right it away, Van says, bowing slightly before hurrying to the kitchen. Taeyong watches her go, a sense of calm washing over him. He heads to the living room and sinks into the couch, closing his eyes for a moment. The quiet of the house, combined with gentle care, begins to ease his tension. A few minutes later, Wine returns with a tray, a steaming cup of tea placed carefully on it. She sets it down on the Thank you, Wine, he says, taking the cup. The warmth of tea seeps into his hands, offering comfort. Wine stands nearby, watching him with quiet concern. Is there anything else you need, sir? Taeyong looks at her, nothing the genuine care in her eyes. No, this is perfect. You always seem to know what exactly I need. Wine smiled shyly, a light blush coloring her cheeks. It's my job to take care of you, sir. Taeyong sips the tea, feeling the warmth spread through his body. You're very good at it, he murmurs more to himself than to her. For a moment they sit in a companionable silence. Taeyong finds himself once again pushing aside the feeling that stirs within him whenever Wine is near. He is engaged to Minji, and no matter how much he appreciates Wine's caring nature, he must not forget his commitment. After finishing his tea, Taeyong feels a bit more relaxed but still drained from the day. He heads to his room hoping a hot shower will help. Stripping off his clothes, he steps under the warm water, letting it wash away the day's stress. He can't help but admire his reflection briefly in the mirror. Once out of the shower, Taeyang wraps a towel around his waist. He intends to change, but exhaustion overwhelms him. He sits on the edge of his bed, leaning back against the headboard, eyes closed, letting his body rest. He feels too tired to move, let alone change his clothes. A soft knock on the door interrupts his rest. It's one gentle voice that follows. Sir, may I come in? Taeyong opens his eyes and glances towards the door. Just a moment, Wan. I'm in the towel. He calls out, feeling a bit embarrassed. Outside the door, Wan can't help but giggle softly at the situation. She quickly covers her mouth, making sure Taeyong doesn't hear it, but her quiet laughter reaches his ears. Taeyong chuckles too, the sound lightening the mood. He stands up, feeling the energy to quickly pull on a pair of pants and a shirt. Okay, Van, you can come in now, he says. The door opens and Van steps inside, her face a mix of concern and shyness. I brought you some soup, sir. I thought it might help you feel better. Taeyong smiles, touched by her thoughtfulness. Thank you, Van, that's very kind of you. Van sets a tray on his bedside table, her eyes flicking to him briefly before looking away. You should eat and then get some rest, sir. You need to take care of yourself. I will, Taeyang promises, sitting back. After that, Van left and Taeyang leans back against the headboard, sipping the warm soup she brought. He feels a bit better, not just physically but emotionally too. Van's presence is a balm of his very soul, and he finds himself smiling at the memory of her giggle. As the dinner approaches, Van and the other maids wait downstairs for Taeyang to come down. They prepare dishes, but as the minutes pass, he doesn't appear. Van starts to worry, remembering how unwell he looked earlier. His health is usually robust due to his strict exercise, REM, and healthy diet, so his absence is concerning. Unable to shake her worry, Van decides to take his dinner upstairs. She carefully arranges the food on the tray and makes her way to his room. When she reaches his door, she knocks softly. Sir, it's Van. May I come in? She calls gently. After a few moments, saying this voice responds, Come in. Ryan opens the door and steps inside, immediately noticing the pallor of his face and the sweat glistening on his forehead. He's clearly burning with fever. She stands a few steps away, holding the tray of food. Sir, are you okay? Taeyong tries to muster a reassuring smile. Yeah, just a headache, he says through his voice lacks of conviction. Ryan's concern deepens. She has worked here for a year and knows how rarely Taeyong falls ill. This is out of the ordinary. She quickly sets a tray on the bedside table and rushes to his side, placing a gentle hand on his forehead. The touch makes Taeyong's heart skip a beat. It's the first time he has felt her touch. So you're burning up, Fine says, worry evident in her voice. Without waiting for his response, she takes his hand, feeling the heat radiating from his skin. I need to call the doctor. Taeyang, too weak to protest, watches her as she moves with a sense of urgency. She grabs her phone and calls the family doctor, explaining the situation with a calmness that belies her concern. After arranging for the doctor to visit, she turns back to Taeyang. Sir, the doctor is on his way. Please try to rest, she says softly. Taeyong looks at her, his eyes filled with gratitude and something more. Thank you, Wan, you always seem. Wan blushes slightly but remains focused on her task. It's my job, sir, she replies. As Taeyong lies back, his thought tripped to Minji. He had informed her about her illness, as she didn't about his health, yet Wan knew something is wrong without him saying a word. The contrast between them is stark, and the young can't help but feel a deep appreciation for Wan's care and intuition. Wan stays by his side, ensuring he drinks some water and keeps cool until the doctor arrives. The young watches her, realizing just how much her presence means to him. He knows he must keep his feelings in check, but in this moment, all he can feel is gratitude and the growing admiration for the woman who takes care of him with such genuine concern. The doctor arrives promptly, his presence bringing a sense of relief to Wan and Taeyang. After examining Taeyang, he prescribes some medication and advises plenty of rest. You have a fever, Mr. Kim. You need to rest and take these medicines. Avoid. Taeyang nods weakly. Thank you, doctor. As the doctor leaves, one step forward, determined to take care of him. She picks up the tray food and sits on the edge of bed. Sir, you need to eat something before taking your medicines. Taeyang looks at her, a faint smile playing on his lips. I'm not very hungry, Wine. You need to eat to regain your strength. Wine insists gently. She picks up a spoonful of soup and hesitates, her cheeks turning pink, feeding him feel intimate, and she shies about it, but she knows she needs to eat. Please, sir, she says softly, meeting his eyes. The moment their eyes lock, a spark passes between them, making her heart race. Taeyang notices her shyness and feels a warmth in his chest. All right, he agrees, opening his mouth slightly. With a blush, Wan feeds him the soup. Their eyes meet again, and for a moment, everything else fades away. Taeyong can feel the care and concern in her gaze, and it touches him deeply. As she continues to feed him, Wan tries to focus on the task, but the closeness makes her nervous. Her hands tremble slightly, but Taeyong's gentle smile reassures her. You're doing great, Wan. Thank you. After he finishes the meal, Wan hands him the medicine, which he takes obediently. Thank you, Wan. I feel better already. Taeyang says, his voice sincere. Wan stands up, her cheeks still flushed. If you need anything, please call me, sir. I will be right outside. Taeyang nods, his eyes following her as she heads towards the door. Wayan has been working in Taeyang's house for a year now. It's impossible for any woman to be around Taeyang and not develop a crush on him. He's not only handsome but a true gentleman. His kindness and respect set him apart from anyone else she was known. Before coming here, Wine worked for someone who didn't treat her well. She was used to being overlooked and undervalued, but everything changed when she started working for Taeyang. In his household, every servant, including her, is treated. Taeyang ensures that everyone feels valued. He often thanks the staff for their hard work, remembers their names, and notices when they are feeling down. His kindness is genuine and it makes the work environment feel more like a family than just a job. Despite the admiration she feels for him, Wine is always aware of her position. She knows she is just a maid and he is her boss. She also knows he is engaged to Minji, a woman from a prominent business family. This engagement is a constant reminder of the distance between their worlds. After some time, Minjin come home and she directly walk upstairs to Taeyang's room. She pushes open the door of his room, her expression shifting from normal to fond concern as she sees him lying in bed, still looking weak from his fever. Taeyang Minji-ku's walking over to his bedside. I heard you weren't feeling well. Taeyang looks up surprised to see her. Minji, what are you doing here? It's late. I came to take care of you, of course, she says, sitting down on the edge of the bed. She reaches out to touch his forehead, her hand lingering longer than necessary. You feel so hot. It is just a fever, Taeyang replies gently, moving her hand away. The doctor said I need rest. Ignoring his words, Minji leans in closer, her hand trailing down his chest. Let me help you relax, she murmurs, her voice. Young tenses, realizing her intention. Minji, we shouldn't do anything like this before marriage, it's not right. Minji pouts under breath. Oh, come on, Taeyang, don't be so old fashioned. We are engaged after all. Taeyang shakes his head, stirring up despite his fatigue. No, Minji, I'm serious. We need to respect our boundaries. Besides, it's getting late. You should go home and rest. Minji's expression hardens, frustration evident in her eyes. You're so old fashioned, Taeyang. Fine, have it your way. I will leave. Without another word, she storms out of the room, leaving Taeyong feeling both relieved and frustrated. Meanwhile, on the other side, one was in the kitchen when another maid, Hana, approaches her with a look of urgency. When the doctor left behind one more medicines for Taeyang, sir. He told me to give it to him, but I have to finish up here. Can you take to him? Hana asked, handing her a small bottle. Wan's heart stings. I don't think that's a good idea, Hana. Minji ma'am still there. Hana frowns, clearly not understanding the gravity of Wan's concern. Wan, he's sick and needs his medicines. Please just do it quickly. I'll finish up the task here. Reluctantly, Wan agrees. She takes the medicine and walks to Taeyang's room, her heart pounding. When she reaches the door, She stops, her hand hovering over the knob. She hears voices inside and decides to wait. After a few minutes, the door swings open and Minji steps out. Her eyes narrow when he sees Vine standing there with the medicine in her hand. What are you doing here at this hour? Minji demands, her tone hostile. Vine stammers, I was just bringing this medicine. The doctor forgot to give it to Taeyong, sir. Minji's face twists with suspicion and anger. You were eavesdropping, weren't you? You're always trying to be around him. Trying to him. No, ma'am, I swear. Vine tries to explain, but Minji cuts her off. Save your lies. Minji snaps, and before Vine can react, Minji's hand lashes out, slapping her hard across the face. Vine stumbles back, her cheek burning from the impact. Vine stands trembling as Minji's accusations hang in the air. Tears brim in her eyes, not just from the physical pain of the slap, but from the emotional weight of the situation. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Despite the fear and the hurt, Vine's thoughts remain clear and resolute. She recalls how she has always been mindful to her position, never overstepping her boundaries. Her care for Taeyang has always been rooted in her duty and a genuine concern of his well-being, nothing more. She knows her place in his world and she has never entertained any inappropriate thoughts about him, no matter how kind or handsome he is. In her heart, Van feels a deep sense of responsibility. Taeyang has been unwell, and as a part of the household staff, it's her job to look after him. This duty is something she takes seriously, driven by her nature to care of others and by her professional obligations. Stay away from him. Minji snaps. You think I don't see how you try to be near him all the time? You're nothing but a maid. Know your place. Vine sobs softly, her hand still on her cheek, unable to speak through her shock and pain. In his room, Taeyang hears a combination and immediately recognizes Vine's sob. Alarms, he gets up and rushes out into the hallway, his anger flaring as he sees Vine's tear-streaked face and Minji standing over her still. What's going on here? Taeyang demands, his voice cold and furious. Minji turns to him, trying to mask her anger with look of innocence. I was just giving her a lesson. She needs to know her place. She always trying to be near you. Taeyang steps between them, his eyes blazing with anger. How dare you, Minji? Vine is here to help and do her job. She has never crossed any line. You had no right to lay a hand on her. Minji looks taken aback by his defense of Vine, but Taeyang cut her off, her voice icy. No, Minji, you are the one who's out of line. Vine has done nothing wrong. She has always respected our boundaries. If anyone is behaving inappropriately, Vine, overwhelmed by the situation, turns and runs down the hallway, her sobs echoing through the house. Vine, wait, Taeyang calls after her, but she doesn't stop. He turns back to Minji, his anger undiminished. This is unacceptable, Minji. You owe her an apology. Minji glares at him, refusing to back down. She's just a maid, Taeyang. Why do you care so much? Taeyang takes a step closer, his expression fierce, because she's a human being who deserves respect, something you seem to have forgotten. Minji coughs, turning on her heel. I'm not going to apologize to a servant. Do whatever you want, I'm leaving. As Minji turns to storm out of the house, Taeyang steps forward and grabs her arm firmly but gently. Wait, Minji, he says, his voice resolute. Minji looks at him with a mix of anger and confusion. What now, Taeyang? Without a word, he pulls out the engagement ring from his finger. He holds it out to her. His eyes cold and unwavering. Take this. Our engagement is over. Minji's eyes widen in shock and disbelief. You can't be serious. Do you know what you are doing? I am very serious, Taeyang replies, his voice steady. I can't marry someone who treats others with such cruelty and disrespect. This isn't just about wine, it's about who you are and what you have shown me tonight. Minji snatches the ring from his hand, her face twisted in rage. You and your family will regret this, Taeyang. My family won't take this insult lightly. There will be consequences. Taeyang stands his ground, his expression unyielding. We'll deal with the consequences. I can't compromise my principle for a marriage that was never based on mutual respect and kindness. Minji glares at him one last time before turning on her heel and storming out of the house, slamming the door behind her. As the sound of a footstep fades away, Taeyang lets out a deep sigh, feeling the weight of his decision but knowing it was the right one. He turns and heads down the hallway, his thoughts solely on finding Ryan and making sure she's okay. The engagement. He walks over and kneels beside her, gently holding her hand. Wyan, he says softly. Wyan looks up at him, her eyes red and filled with tears. Seeing him, she immediately snatches her hand away. Please, sir, stay away from him. I can't bear someone questioning my character. She says, her voice trembling. She stands up and tries to leave, but Taeyong grabs her wrist, preventing from her going. Wyan, wait, he pleads. I'm sorry. Because of me, you had to endure this. She turns to him, her expression a mix of pain and confusion. It's not your fault, sir, but I can't stay here. Minji ma'am has problem with me. Taeyong take a deep breath, his eyes filled with sincerity. Wyan, I need to tell you something. I broke off the engagement with her. Wyan eyes widen in shock. Taeyong continues. I don't care about that. Taeyong says firmly. What I care about is you and I, Minji. We're going to marry next month, but I want our wedding to happen next month instead. Will you marry me? Wyan's eyes go even wider and she shakes her head in disbelief. We have no match, sir. I'm just a maid. Young takes up both of her hands in his grip gentle but firm. Wyan, I've been trying to push aside my feelings for you because of our position, but I can't do it anymore. I like you, your kindness, your dedication, the way you care for everyone, it means. Wyan heart races overwhelmed by his confession. But your family, they are very high status people. Your mother is a businesswoman. She will never accept me. Taeyang squeezes her hands reassuringly. I'll handle my family. I make sure them to see what I see in you. Your worth isn't defined by your job. It's your heart and your character that matter to me. Trust me, Wyan. Wyan looks up into his eyes, seeing the depth of his sincerity and the warmth of his affection. Her fear and doubt begin to melt away, replaced by a glimmer of hope. But it's such a big step, she whispers. I know, Taeyang replies softly, but I believe in us. Will you take that step with me? Wyan stands trembling, her cheeks stinging from Minji's slap, her heart aching from the unjust accusation. Her mind races, but words fail her. The vast chasm of their statuses looms large, making it impossible for her to defend herself against Minji's venomous claims. Before she can gather her thoughts, Seong steps forward, his eyes are filled with protectiveness. Without hesitation, he pulls Swan into his arms, holding her tightly. The warmth and the firmness of his embrace offer her a moment of solace amidst the chaos. I promise you, the young murmurs, his voice soft yet resolute. I'll take care of everything, you don't have to worry. Fine tears continue to fall, but within the young's arm, she feels a flicker of hope. His promise, his assurance wraps around her like a shield. For the first time since the incident began, she feels a sense of safety and reassurance. Taeyang's unwavering stance against Minji's cruelty, his public defense of her character, and his vow to handle the situation provide Wan with the strength she needs. She knows the path ahead will be challenging, but with Taeyang by her side, she believes they can face whatever.